welcome to the Service Operations Podcast. I am your host, 𝗟𝘃 𝗫𝗀𝗃. Our guests are from different industries and functions. They will share their experience, strategies, and the changing landscape to help you take the service operations of your business to the next level. Today we are having a conversation with 𝗏𝗏 𝗟𝘃 as everyone likes to call him. 𝗟𝘃 is a thought leader in customer experience space. He has worked for over 16 years in leadership roles in reputed companies like Wipro, Concentrix, Aditya Birla and others. 𝗟𝘃 has strong beliefs on how customer experience should be handled. So he will take us through his journey in short and share his views. Over to you, 𝗟𝘃.
Hey, hi 𝗟𝘃. How are you doing this morning?
Good, great.
Thanks for having me.
And waiting to hear, all that you have to say.
Lovely. So, yeah, customer services, customer experience, that's pretty much has been the sum total of all my work life. And if I were to, say why there's a need to have specialized view of customer service and if I may use the word regimented approach to designing it like corporations and business leaders apply on various other functions like marketing, sales, there is a need to have specialized intervention on customer services, customer experience as well. And the reason for that is that no one employee or department intentionally do things to inconvenience the customer. It is the cumulative effect of not effectively connected and understood actions that sometimes create a problem for the customers. And that is where professionals like me and you and our entire fraternity of customer services, customer experience professionals come in, where we not only do the find and fix, but also get into a more scientific way of structurally understanding where things are broken and how do we make sure that the customer doesn't really have to go through one bad experience. I mean, the best case scenario is that you do get it first time right, where there is no fault at all, but we know in real world things do break sometimes. But if it indeed does, then the customer at least has to never face the same problem again. That pretty much is the goal of what me and my team and everybody that I have learned from in the customer services domain have tried to strive for.
Yeah, you're right. I think the design right is the key. That's what the customer will experience. So it's not necessarily breakages, but it is the need that the customer needs to come to you for something, which is not really positive by nature.
So on service design, my view really is that service design is everything between envisioning and implementation of interactions that create a customer experience. It is also being intentional. When you talk about customer design, then it is about being intentional, about designing the processes, people, technology, platform, and interdepartmental exchanges to tailor the kind of customer experience that the brand wants to extend, so that the difference between the promise and the actual delivery is non-existent or as small as humanly possible. It is about opening a lab kind of a concept in which feedback from customers and understanding of the staff and perhaps on the impediments to excellent customer exchanges are understood, and then company works on some of those design in making sure that no bad design makes it to real customer world no matter what. It is about bringing intentionality into the entire process. I am a strong believer of essentialism, minimalism, and I believe that whatever processes that we design, whatever actions that we execute, whatever communication that we send out in the open market have to be intentional, have to be thoughtful, and have to be thought from the perspective of the customer. More often than not, we find that business leaders design process in the interest of ease of doing business. It shouldn't be that way. That perhaps is not the best way of doing it. You got to do it from the perspective of the customer. What is going to be easier for the customer to use? That should be the goal of the company, in my view.
So, what do you think is the role of and I'm liking this word intent that you're using, intention that you're using. So, in my experience in talking to many of these mid-management people, like people who really handle those pieces, what I have come across is that what the leadership speaks, okay, and what the middle management understands, there's a huge gap between the two. So when I ask them, okay, what is your management's intent, they're not able to, there's a big gap there.
I absolutely agree, and that is perhaps one of the largest contributors to poor customer service in my mind, right? That is where service strategy really comes into mind. So before you begin, so if you ask business leaders, most of them see customer service as there is a consumer on one side and there
Yeah.
is a corporation being represented by somebody on the phone or an email or a chat or a chatbot or a cognitive technology stack, and exchange between the two. It is perhaps the most important aspect, no doubt about that, but only the visible aspect, the scene of
Yeah.
customer service. But there's also a lot of unseen. If seen is a drop, unseen is an ocean, quite literally.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that is where, before you get into augmenting your channels, hiring people, designing your processes, augmenting your platforms, it is essential that the company zeroes down on what is going to be the service strategy. Now, service strategy in my mind is best defined as intended experience. What is the kind of experience
Yeah.
that you wish to extend to your users? Is it going to be Costco or an Apple? Is it going to be Airtel or an LG? It is important to clearly define what is it that you wish to extend to your customer as experience. Strategy, therefore, is an expression of intent more than anything else. What is it that you really want to do? Do you want to create great customer experience? If you wish to do that, then you will have to make sure that people responsible for customer experience are part of every decision making process, and not just the front end processes but also the back end processes. How is communication handled, right? How is market reach handled? So all of it.
Yeah. Yeah. So just tell me now that you have worked in, different set of companies. Okay, they're all each one would be different from the other. So what is it that is common between them that is good?
Intent.
Okay.
Every organization invariably wants to succeed, get to the top of their field. And I believe that is really common among all organizations that I have worked for. I've been very fortunate because all the organizations that I have worked for throughout my career have generally been among the top, right? So then the strongest driver is to hold on to the fort and then keep moving forward every day. uh, but one must also understand that the business, the
Yeah.
market space has undergone transformative change. Massive shakeup has happened. Now consumers, so for example, a telecom consumer is no longer going to compare you with services of another telecom consumer,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? The
Perfect. Yeah.
service benchmarking today is happening across industries. So for example, 10 minutes, 15 minutes delivery is in vogue these days, right? Now an experience, if a customer has experienced that a 10 minutes, 15-minute delivery on their grocery, then they would find it extremely hard to wait patiently for 30 minutes to get a pizza.
Yeah.
Now we can debate all we
Whether
want
it's
whether
required.
10 minutes is required or not, and I'm of the belief that it is perhaps environmentally not very conscious, because
Yeah.
to make 10 minutes delivery happen, the amount of excess carbon that is being pumped in our environment, I'm sure it's going to do nobody
Yeah.
good,
Any good.
and definitely not in the environment that NCR has, where an average person without smoking smokes about 24 cigarettes a day just by the mere act of breathing, right? Our air is so polluted.
Yeah.
But that
Yeah.
aside, environmental concerns aside, now a consumer would really want the best of the service that they get in any segment to be replicated everywhere. So the sense of competition now has broken the barriers of verticals. It is now you versus every other provider, right? That is where the mere desire to be best in class in the field that you are serving may not be good enough.
Yeah. But I'm just getting one thought in my mind now. See, one is that everybody now runs a race, because now you see, if one person comes up with, okay, 10-minute delivery or half an hour delivery, then everybody else wants to do it. But the other way is also that there are people who don't really want all this rush in life. I think there is, there comes this question of expectation management. So I might be a company who delivers, okay, I'll give you something in an hour's time. So long as I tell you it is 1 hour, I think as a customer you should be fine. And if you really want the faster one, then you should go there. What do you think about this expectation versus, delivery gap?
That's an excellent question, Satinder. I must compliment you on that, because it doesn't really get spoken that much, but it is very, very critical. See, the thing here is that the element of customer segmentation becomes important here, right? So in my household, my mother orders, I place some orders, my sisters also transact on e-commerce. The expectations that each one of us have is very different from the same provider,
Okay.
right? So for example,
That's
my mom
like another
may be
one.
content, my mother may be content on getting the delivery even next day. That's all right, right? Even I would be fine if I get it the next day, to tell the truth. But my sisters would want it the same day. They would really like it to happen the very moment that they want it to happen. Are they wrong? Well, I don't know. But the principle here is this, that both brands and consumers, they teach each other and they change each other's behavior, right? By the kind of services that you get exposed to, your expectations of service basically evolves, right? And because once a standard has been set, so for example, answer the call within 20 seconds of the customer's calling. This is considered one of the most relatable service benchmarks. Now, will the customer be willing to be answered 21st second? Perhaps yes, but because it's a standard, you cannot go down. The objective is to always bring it to smallest wait time possible. Nobody likes to wait, and definitely not in the day and age which we live in. Nobody wants to wait, so the sooner the better, right? What it has done for sure is the logistics and the supply chain innovation has been mind boggling. That's one area which has been doing wonderful job. And I'm very hopeful for this. The reason why I say that is that I believe that some of these innovations are tomorrow going to seep into healthcare as well, where they're going to actually matter. If a healthcare services, if an ambulance or a critical care is provided within 10 minutes, it's going to really matter a lot than somebody getting a pizza in the blink of an eye, right? So innovation is good. Cross pollination of ideas happen. Both customers and corporations learn from each other, and by that become the reason for each other's evolution and also evaluation against the way the business sort of operates.
So that's actually very interesting, because see, always the first mover has all the difficulties, and having been in work where some of those things used to happen, is it's like really difficult. It is easy to follow, but what you're really saying is that this evolution is very good in a way, but what really happens is that it is not happening equitably in a way. So say even in one organization, there are certain pieces which really are very advanced, and there is this other piece which is still staggering and trying. And I'll give you one example. In case I'm trying to submit some papers for updating certain records, okay? So first of all, I have to go through this physical paperwork to submit, which is fine. Now there are some, I'm okay with that, doing that as a one-time exercise. Now after I submit, the company does not have a method of coming back to me to tell me whether they have accepted it, whether they are going to reject it, if they are rejecting, why they are rejecting it.
I understand, and while you have not said it, I presume it must be in the 𝗵𝘁 segment.
Yeah, it is.
And
yes.
And trust me when I say this, a lot of the blame goes towards the regulator. The regulator wants to move really slow.
But see, here it is different. Here it is a mutual fund industry. So just it's not banks, if in that sense. So in mutual funds, what is happening is it's not a very transacting industry in that sense. So we don't, once you buy it and then you only sell it, there's very little that happens between. But the problem here is that submission is fine. Now this has got to do with the process, really. That they're not close the process itself.
No, I agree. Yeah. I absolutely agree. See, the point here is this: that so let's segregate the entire industry. There were 2 points that you raised. First was first mover, and the other one was about the
Yeah.
processes being seamless, right? So, I'll first like to comment on the second part of your question,
Yeah.
which is the processes being designed in a manner that the experience is seamless. I mean, there cannot be any argument worthy of any attention which does not speak in the favor of the experience being seamless. So I mean that goes without saying. It
Yeah.
has to be
Yes.
seamless, even if the process requires 15 steps, and there's no way for the organization to, in interest of security and personalization and everything else, if the organization is not in a position to shorten it from 15 to 14, it's fine. But as
Yeah.
long as it is guided, as long as it is understood, intuitive. Now there, one segment of the industry is still aloof from the developments happening in some of the other segments in the industry.
Yeah.
And which is where in the earlier conversation that we were having, I mentioned about cross pollination. Cross pollination of ideas will definitely happen. But yeah, I mean, there are, in any industry, if you look at it, there are leaders and then there are laggards. Problem happens when the market leader becomes a laggard on innovation. Then the impact is to a very large group of customers. But we have seen small startups coming up, and they're really giving the large corporation a run for their money. So my sense is that the room to hide, the room to not change, the room to obstinately hold on to a position is going to get smaller and smaller by the day. Now,
Yeah.
coming to the first part of the conversation, the first mover advantage. I mean, while it is always great to innovate and be on the cutting edge, but I believe that more than doing the things first, it is important to do the things right. And there I take the example of Apple, my favorite company. If you look at Apple rarely brings anything which is new. Rarely. So for example, on their phones, 120 hertz refresh rate on iPhones took about 6 years to come. Android had it 6 years ago, and it's only this year that they have come up with their promotion on their phones. But when they have come up with promotion on their phones, it is perfect.
Yeah.
It is perfect. It just works. I mean, and it can, and there's no phone, and when I say it, this is my area of interest. I keep looking at various electronics. No phone comes even close to it, right?
Yeah.
So I still see a lot of merit in doing things right. Even if you have to wait for a couple of years, get your R&D right, do it. But when you bring it to the market, it has to be absolutely perfect. If you look at headphones, if you look at iPads, you look at Macintosh computers, I mean, none of the features are first, but when they arrive, they become the norm of the market, right? And they set the gold standard of delivery. And why does that happen? That happened because they have first principle thinking, they have design thinking in their minds. They will never let a bad product get out of their shelves. So what I was saying is that doing it right, in my mind, scores more than doing it first. Apple is a classic example, and I normally like to contrast Apple with Samsung. Both are great companies. I admire the success and the name that they have created for themselves. But look at a Samsung product. It will have a zillion of features. Nobody knows how they work, right?
Yeah.
And they don't work all the time. We know it for a fact. You look at an iPhone or look at any other product, Macintosh, iPads, Apple Watch, anything, just even this pencil for that matter, right? It just works. It doesn't have too many features. It is intentional in what it does, but the things that it does it all the time.
Yeah.
And why does
they're
that happen?
intuitive. Actually, what I liked of what you said is it's intuitive. See, we don't have to go for a class. And actually, I'm so happy that you're talking about this, because now when you recollect, even the way the boxes, what to expect from the when you open the box, what you should expect, then it's all the same, and it's been the same for so many years. So you don't have
The
to
attention to details is mind-boggling. So, for example,
yeah.
in one of the research, user research that Apple was doing, they figured out that when the box reaches them, when the shipment reaches them, most consumers have to run and find out where the knife is, and it's a delay. It's a proverbial delay of a couple of minutes in actually experiencing the products. You know what they made? They made their unboxing knife free. There's a flap. You pull the flap, it comes out. Now that is attention to detail, right? You have it in front of you. The product, the box is in front of you. You do not need anything else to experience it. And even if you look at the design of the box, it is weight proportional. I don't know if you've noticed this, but when you open the lid of an Apple product, it slides proportionately in all directions. It is
Yeah.
weight managed, right? To that degree.
Yeah. And in fact, just an addition, they know, of course, they know that people change phones. Okay, that's their maybe marketing strategy and obviously a business strategy also. But what I notice now is that now you don't get the adapter in the box. So now
That
the
is
phone
correct.
box, okay, so they have realized that the customer already has, because he's using their product for a while, he doesn't need it. He can buy it separately. And trust me, it has brought down the cost of the phone itself.
Yeah, and environmentally it is good. If I may take a minute to talk about why some of these large organizations don't change.
Yeah.
The horrible mutual fund experience that you are having to sadly go through. See, to my mind, there are three things that products have to basically do. First and foremost is meets the need. Do your product and service meet the requirement of the customer? It is the most fundamental requirement that the customer has, and the fact that you are selling in a way sort of proves that it is meeting requirement of some customers.
Yeah.
Second is, and that is where the evolution starts, is it easy to use? How much effort did the customer have to make to get service from your brand? Is the degree of work that is needed to be put in by the customer acceptable to him or her, or would they need or want it to be improved? And the third aspect, this is where the most successful companies, if you were to draw a quadrant, the most successful companies will come in the enjoyable category. Is
Yeah.
your service enjoyable to your customer? Do your customers enjoy doing business with you? When they interact, do they have fun? Do they like coming back to you? Right? How good a brand is in really driving engagement beyond the use case, right? So most organizations that don't evolve get stuck at the meets the need stage. They never
Yeah.
really progress to ease of use, and certainly never goes to enjoyability. Once your product or service is enjoyable to use, and trust me, your customers are going to get hooked to it. I mean, why is TikTok making waves around the world? TikTok has beaten YouTube in their viewership statistics this year. That is huge. I mean, it's a pity
Yeah.
that it's banned in the country, but elsewhere in the West it is doing waves. And why is it able to do it? Because it is easy to use,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Actually, easy. I think. Though I really don't know whether all companies put in that much of an effort, around ease of use. Because if you see forms, sometimes, I mean, some things are so basic, like, the size of the box on the form. I mean, it's a struggle sometimes to put in an alphabet there. So I think, yeah, actually what you're saying is that the service in particular, and at least those who, really are in the service space, they need to give importance to all these. And this is actually a part of service and not a part of the brand. See, brand gets associated with marketing and, advertisements and things like that. But this is like the real thing and what the customer is experiencing. Yeah, you're absolutely right on that side.
The reason why that is the case is, if I may add, most of the processes and the product and platforms that organizations sort of augment to do business, they are optimized for ease of doing business. So this senior vice president operations wants to see a metric. So that metric has to be measured. So what happens is that metric gets added in the form, irrespective of the way, irrespective of any thought that is it adding any value to the customer? And there on measurement, I believe that there are
Yeah,
three
in
kinds
fact,
of metrics.
I want you to talk about measurement, because that's like one abused, work that people who are in service operations do. I mean, I really don't know. I feel sorry. I always feel sorry for people who are just collecting data. That is.
Your entire measurement machinery has to be divided into three sort of bucket. And first is descriptive metric. What is it that actually happened? Yeah, so things like customer called to resolve the problem with the bill, was on hold for 5 minutes, spoke with the phone agent for X number of minutes, trouble ticket opened, trouble ticket closed. Descriptive metric is what is it that actually happened.
Yeah.
Second is perception metric. What did the customer think about what happened? Right? So which is like opens the bill and sees it's wrong, looks at a form and is unable to, the boxes are so small that they are not able to write your case, right? Waits on hold forever, frustrated with the agent or the bot not understanding what the concern is. And the third important metric is the outcome metric. What will the customer do as a result of what happened? Are they going to feel happy? Are they going to feel satisfied? Are they going to feel disgruntled, dissatisfied, frustrated? Are they going to feel so happy that they're going to recommend you, or they're going to just drop your product and never come back to you? So these three things: descriptive metric, what happened; perception metric, what did the customer think about what happened; and outcome metric, what will the customer do as a result of what happened. They're extremely important, and one needs to loop it back with the three things that we talked about. On one axis you have these three matrices, on the other axis you have meets the need of your customer, is it fun to use, it is enjoyable to use, is it easy to use, right? These three metrics. And on the x-axis and the y-axis, if one is able to sort of plot, then they will understand if their measurement systems are right or not right. The goal of the organization is to understand what are the elements in the organization that help customers to be loyal to the organization, and then build systems to make sure that those things are taken care of. Right? What must be fixed immediately, what should be improved over time, what should be maintained at the same level, what should be touted as strength of the organization. I mean, these things have to be really thought through. And I always say this: when you think about something, think from the perspective of the customer and not from the ease of doing business. I'm not saying ease of doing business is not important, but ease of doing your business should not be prioritized over ease of the customer.
What you're saying is right. And what happens in organizations, and more because of scale and because of so much dependency on technology, rightly so, is that we only get numerical metrics. So what you spoke about is this description. So when the customer, what did he feel, will come from what did he say. So unless you're going to pick up what he said, the words that he used, you will not know what exactly it is that you need to do. So, and there's this very classical way in which we measure. So it's like, when you ask the operations team, and I'm sure it happens everywhere, is that they are always at 99.9% performance. Okay. Now for the same service, when you ask the customer, he says, okay, yeah, he's around 50, 60 or whatever that might be. So the real measure, or whoever is looking at it, should look at both of them together. If you're at 99.9, then why is this at 60 point something? Where is the 30% gone? And for the same process, mind you, I'm not even talking about different processes. I'm just saying a same process will show you in these two manners.
See, about automation, my belief is, and my experience of seeing various CX automation initiatives, is that most superficial CX transformation efforts start and end at the front end. That is, replace the IVR with an IVRS, throw in a bot, voice and chat in the mix, deploy voice recognition system for authentication, invert the dialer, take the callback request from the customer, open FAQs with some graphic facelift to the customer on a web or an app, and call it automation, right? We need to understand that gathering what customer has to say and responding to them, the whole conversation part of customer service, is just one tiny part of the puzzle. Vitally important to get right, but it's not all. It is not all. Customer satisfaction has been recorded and recognized in countless research in the field. It is directly proportional to the quality of resolution provided, and is also determined by how frequently are the customers forced to seek help. Customer satisfaction can't be achieved merely by deploying a cool omni-channel solution or a sassy bot. For a resolution to come to, or in other words, for customers to be really happy, the automation effort should be focused on things like manage customers journey well, smooth the rough edges around the high defect areas leading to high anxiety in customers, user experience heat map, if you will, right? Laying the processes such that customers doesn't need to seek help. It involves crafty process re-engineering, a whole lot of data science, pattern recognition, and preempting needs of the customer, and effective customer education strategy. The idea is to not fall for what is fancy. The idea is to find the right fit for your customers. Check with your customers what is their problem, what are high anxiety areas, and then solve for those things. And if you're solving for your customers, you will get there. Today, tomorrow, you will get there. But if you're solving for your ease of doing business, you might miss the goalpost. I mean, like they say, missing the woods for the trees.
Being in the organ, now you're in the organization, okay? See, it is very difficult, at least I found it very difficult, for you to be able to, convert the advantage into numbers. So when I'm saying this, what I really mean is the ROI of anything to do with customer service. And that becomes one of the biggest challenges for people who manage, the entire service operations, to go back to whoever to ask them to do something. So it's like, what you said, that customer satisfaction, we know, is very good, it's good for business, etc. But because you cannot put it in numbers, it becomes a big challenge in any company to get something done for.
No, I believe it is easy to put numbers to customer service, and here's how one can do it. So whenever you face an executive who says that I don't want to invest in customer services because I believe it doesn't add to the bottom line, you should tell a few things to this customer, to this executive, that customers hate unpredictability, customers loathe having to repeat, customers despise contradicting information, customers detest being taken for granted, customers do not have it in their hearts to tolerate waiting. Right? And then tell them that, would you like to do business with a brand that treated you poorly? And if they still don't get it, then do a simple, very, very simple analysis where you say, you have all the interactions, right? You have various ways of measuring customer experience. You will have a CSAT survey, you will have an NPS, you will have transaction monitoring scores, right? You measure these three for all the customers who have tried getting in touch with you. Right? So when you interact with the customer, either you satisfy the customer or you don't, right?
Yeah.
You rate it on a scale of 1 to 5, and then you see top two boxes, which is 4 and 5, where you believe you've served the customers to start from, right? Yeah. And then try and see, of the customers that you believe that you have served well, how many of them actually keep coming back to you, versus those where you believe that you did not do a good job. Did the customer come back? You would invariably find that customers who return to you, unless you are a monopoly, right? With private enterprise, unless you are a monopoly, if you are in these two segments, where in first segment you think you've done a good job of servicing the customers, you will always see that return rate is higher, customer loyalty is higher, age on network is higher. On the other bucket, where you believe that you've not done a great job servicing the customer, some of these numbers are going to be smaller. So there are ways to put numbers, but my sense is my argument is this: if a customer service executive is having to make a case for investment in customer service, the battle is perhaps lost, right? The conversation that the business leader should do is whether this initiative of customer service is helping more than the other initiative, and not that whether we should have a customer service initiative. So if you are having to really wreck your brain, let's say with a CEO who doesn't understand what customer service is, then the brand will soon fall out of favors with customers.
You have a wealth of knowledge, and you're so passionate about the subject. In conclusion, if there is this one message that you'd like to give the listeners who are particularly people who manage service operations, what would that be?
Thank you. Thank you for that compliment. I would say this, that human-centric solutions that transform customer-facing processes without taking away ease of use or adding complexity while retaining accuracy, if not improving it further, is destined to win in the market. If I may borrow from Satya Nadella, empathy, the most humane quality of all, is the source of all innovation. I would request the audience to go over to my website, www.lavkush.co.in. You would find, more than 1,000 long form articles in which I've spoken in detail, written in detail about service philosophy, service design, service delivery, and transformation at scale. So do visit and do read some of my views. I'll be very happy to hear from your audiences. They can get in touch with me. Thank you very much for having me. It was wonderful jamming with somebody as knowledgeable as you on a topic as dear to me as customer service. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you so much, and I'm sure we will catch up with you again to delve deep into some topic.
I would love for that to happen.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much.
And we'll meet again.